Starfield is a huge game with a million things to learn and uncover. And for new players, it might be super overwhelming to figure out exactly how everything works and what is different about the game's core mechanics in comparison to other Bethesda titles. So today, I'm going to walk you through all of the things that after 100 hours into the game, I wish I knew when I began playing. From planets and their characteristics, to core mechanics and even shipbuilding. Join me for Starfield's ultimate starting guide, so next time you play, you can jump right in and get immersed.
I choose this as our goal.
Creatures of none.
I can't believe it's you standing here next to me.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I'd like to give a massive thanks to Kinguin for sponsoring this video. As Bethesda Game Studios has just released Starfield, you can explore the vast universe from both first-person and third-person viewpoints. You can interact with a diverse range of characters and embark on quests, all whilst confronting many different enemies. Kinguin is a simple and easy site to use. Click the link in the description now to get Starfield cheaper on Kinguin. Use my code BURNS at checkout to get 12% off with instant delivery of your product key to your email. Again, thanks to Kinguin for supporting the channel, but without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing you'll need to know is that a few of the game's mechanics are this time around locked behind skills. For example, in order to be able to even pickpocket, you'll be required to unlock the theft skill. Otherwise, there will just never be an option to pickpocket any NPC. When you pickpocket someone, you can look inside any NPC's inventory without committing a crime. If the item in the inventory is marked as red, you are most likely going to get caught. If the item is green, you have a medium chance of successfully stealing, and if the item is blue, you are likely to be able to steal the item successfully. Talking of being sneaky, another useful asset is the stealth meter, which also needs to be unlocked in the skill tree. You can sneak without the perk, but you only gain the stealth meter at the top of your screen once you have the first level of the skill. This can be helpful when pickpocketing to make sure no one is looking, and also if you're scouting a base or trying to evade enemies stealthily. As you progress through the stealth skill, your stealth meter will become more detailed, helping you to assess each stealth situation. Lockpicking is an element used throughout a lot of Bethesda games, however this lockpicking minigame is slightly different than the others. Digipicks are your new source of breaking into things. When you attempt to pick a lock, you're given a selection of different shaped puzzle pieces that will slot into the holes in each layer of the lock. Some of these pieces will fit, some of them will not. It's your job to align the correct element with the lock in order to unlock the desired area. You can also see which pieces will actually fit into each level of the puzzle because they will glow blue when you select one that can slot in. Don't worry, if you mess up, you can also undo a placement at the expense of one digipick per undo. Alternatively, you can attempt an autofill if you can't work out a specific puzzle. Finally, some locks will be unavailable to even attempt to pick if you're not a high enough level in the skill, but all players can at least attempt novice locks without a perk. Starfield also comes with a persuasion minigame in certain scenarios. This skill can also be upgraded in the skill tree under the persuasion skill. When you are talking to an NPC, sometimes you'll have the chance to try and persuade. If you choose this option, a minigame starts and you see different choices you can say to the NPC. There is also a completion bar that you need to fill up in order to succeed. To do this, you have to pick the right things to say. Each dialogue choice you have will be labelled with a colour. Green for an easy and good chance of success, but yields the lowest point reward, yellow for a medium chance, and red for the lowest chance but yields the greatest amount of points if you succeed. Choosing a more difficult dialogue option can fill the bar faster, but also comes with a greater risk of failing to persuade the NPC. Jump packs are a great way to traverse across planets and terrain. There are 4 different types of boost packs you'll find across Starfield, all with their pros and cons. These consist of Basic Boost Pack. This one is the most straightforward. It's good for short boosts, so it won't take you very far. Skip Velocity Boost Pack. These can be used more often, but they're not very strong. They're used mostly for traversing low gravity planets at a faster rate. Power Boost Packs, these are the strongest kind, but you cannot use them as frequently. They will work well in high gravity areas and can give you a good lift. And finally, the Balance Boost Pack. This one strikes a balance between lift and path. It's a good all-around option for various situations. And finally, as far as mechanics are concerned, a handy skill to have unlocked is the Combat Slide. as I played about 50 hours thinking this game could really use a slide, not knowing that there's actually one available locked behind a skill. This can be found in the physical category under the gymnastics section. As well as just being fun to slide around, the combat slide also has its perks, such as in combat when you're trying to dodge bullets, and when I've personally found it particularly good is whilst you're sprinting and you stumble upon an enemy, you can combat slide and it will cancel your sprint immediately and sliding into the sneak position, avoiding detection if you're quick enough. Planets are a key element throughout your Starfield experience as you'll be travelling to and from them regularly. Each planet will have a number of different statistics. Each of these stats are important in different aspects. However, atmosphere is particularly important because it will determine whether or not you will need to wear your space helmet upon its surface. If a planet has O2 within the atmosphere, it's more than likely it has breathable air, meaning your space helmet or suit is not necessary. If it doesn't, then you're probably going to suffocate and die, so you best wear a spacesuit, a helmet, and a pack. All three are necessary. Once you're on a planet, you will have the chance to use your scanner. The scanner will highlight different resources, flora, fauna, and locations you're able to interact with. Each time you scan a piece of flora, for example this spiral creeper, you will gain an additional piece of knowledge about it, such as the resource it provides, the specific biomes it can be found in, its genetics, and how it reproduces. Fauna, alternatively, offer different information such as their temperament, resources provided, biomes they inhabit, and their abilities. The scanner can also be upgraded in the skills menu to add multiple zoom features, meaning you don't need to be as close in order to scan. Gravity is another important factor when it comes to movement across planets. Some planets will have a lower gravity level, meaning you can jump further and take less or sometimes no fall damage, whereas others may have a higher gravity level similar to Earth, meaning that if you jump from a high place, it's most likely going to hurt. The gravity level is shown for each planet before travelling to it on the map menu and can also be seen when you pull up your scanner in the bottom left of your HUD. There are two main ways to collect resources from planets. The first is by mining. Simply shoot your cutter at the desired resource to harvest it. Rarer resources may take longer to break than common ones. The second way is even simpler. Sometimes you can stumble upon pools of resources, which you can simply harvest by using the interact button. Resources are used for basically everything in Starfield, such as outpost building, completing research projects, upgrading spacesuits, weapon modifications, and that's just to name a few, which makes it a vital part of the game in order to progress. A minor but interesting feature in Starfield is time. If you rest by sleeping or sitting down, in this menu below the bar, two timescales will appear, local time and UT time. In the simplest terms, local time is the time on the planet that you're on right now, matching how fast it spins in relation to its sun, and this will essentially control the day-night cycle in any area you're at. UT time stands for universal time, which is a standard time measured across the entire settled system, so it's consistent across planet to planet. In Starfield, each planet has certain locations you can land at. However, they aren't the only places available to land. You can just click on any landmass while in the map menu and select land at that exact location. It can literally be in the middle of nowhere, giving you the freedom to explore whichever direction you'd like, and as you explore, new locations will spawn in, which aren't marked on your map to begin with. Starfield is home to a large swath of factions with centuries of lore and history, but just so you don't get confused, here's a simple rundown of the main ones you'll come across in the settled systems. First we have our main three civilizations, of which most of the game's lore and story is centered around: United Colonies, House Varun, and the Freestar Collective. The United Colonies is based in New Atlantis, Starfield's major and most advanced city located on Jameson, in the Alpha Centauri star system. They are the oldest and most established colony across the settled systems, and are home to a few sub-factions such as Constellation, the main quest faction of explorers dedicated to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, and the Vanguard, a cohort of fighter pilots who pledge themselves to protecting the United Colonies against any and all threats. You can find Constellation located at the lodge in the Mast district of New Atlantis, along with the Vanguard at the Mast HQ within the same district. It's the huge building in the middle. Then we have the Freestar Collective, who are the second major faction and were the first to form after the United Colonies. They can be found based on Aquila City on the planet Aquila in the Cheyenne star system. Finally, there is House Varun. This faction is not exactly joinable, but you can select the Serpent's Embrace trait in the character creator, which will give you some extra benefits involving gravity. They are the third main house occupying the settled systems, and worship what they call the Great Serpent. which is a manifestation of gravity in a religious context. Now for the enemy factions. Spacers are the most minor and disconnected of the enemy factions, and are often just people who feel the way the settled systems is ruled is not to their liking, so turn rogue and raid outposts and settlements at their own will. Sort of just like bandits or raiders. Next are the Crimson Fleet, the major enemy faction which the player can join. They are a band of pirates who roam the settled system, attacking pretty much anything they can make a few credits from. If you want to join them, a quest can be started by getting a bounty in the United Colonies and turning yourself in after being caught in outer space. And finally are the Ecliptic Mercs, which in my experience are the toughest and most technologically advanced of the enemy factions. They are a mercenary kill squad who will work for anyone willing to pay. I won't say too much more, but if you want to experience one of the coolest locations in Starfield, head to the Vulture's Roost in Jaffa. Ships are obviously a core part of the game, and they can be quite overwhelming at first not knowing how everything works and what to do. So here's your rundown on how ships operate in this game. To view and modify your ship, you'll want to speak to a ship services technician who can be found at most major shipping ports, usually the guy with the green arm jacket. Here, you have a few options. You can see what ships are available to purchase, repair any damages to yours, or modify your ships, the latter of which will bring up the shipbuilder workshop. There are unlimited combinations you can do within this builder, but all ships must adhere to a few simple rules, otherwise the workshop will tell you there is an error and you cannot go through with your changes. Firstly, every ship needs a cockpit, where you and your crew will control the ship from. It also needs a bay where you can enter the ship, and the bay must in some way lead to the cockpit. Additionally, each ship requires at least one engine of course, at least one fuel tank, a docker to allow you to dock onto other ships and star yards, one grav drive, and one reactor. The reactor determines how much power you can allocate across your ship's functions, and without it the ship would just never power on. The grav drive allows the ship to grav jump across to other star systems, and the fuel tank determines how far you can jump at any particular time. You will also need to make sure the ship has some stable form of landing gear. Things like shields, weapons, and cargo add-ons are purely optional, but highly recommended. And obviously the bigger the ship, the more engines you'll probably need to get the thing moving. Once you have made your modifications, you can give the ship a flight check which will let you know if you have any errors or warnings. Errors will need to be amended before you can save your changes, but warnings are just recommendations on possible issues with your ship. In this menu you can also rename your starship if you so choose. Then you can exit the shipbuilder and go through with your purchases if all errors are gone. Now that you have a ship, you can begin loading it with crew. Either those unlocked from story missions or hireable crew NPCs found at most cities bar, like the viewport in New Atlantis. Finally, in regards to actually handling the ship in space, something I had a bit of trouble figuring out at the beginning of the game is in order to dock with a star yard or another ship, you need to open your scanner while flying, point it towards the ship and press interact. This will then give you the option to hail, which essentially means speak to the ship's pilot, or dock if you are close enough. There are of course far more stuff you can do with ships, and if you guys would like a more in-detail video going through everything ship related, let me know in the comments and I'll put one together. But that's going to be everything for this video. Hopefully this has given you a little more understanding for various aspects of the game, as there is so much it can be a little confusing and overwhelming to understand when you start. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.